Every aspect of a skills child development class is designed from the ground up to have purpose and to work synergistically with every other aspect of class to help the kids supercharge their learning. Let me walk you through a basic format for a skills style class. In our program, each class is divided into 6 main parts. Each part of class is designed to set up the next part of class so that by the time the class is over, the mission of creating a cool experience for every student, every class is accomplished. This also allows us to accomplish our other goal of helping the kids leave even better than when they came in. This approach is not something we just pulled out of thin air. It's based on decades of research and leverages the latest revelations in neuroscience, child psychology, and educational practices. Now, before we even start class, the first thing we do is welcome every child. We are making eye contact, using their name, and letting them know that they feel welcome in the learning environment. Having a sense of connection between the kids and the instructors is so important for every other thing that's going to happen. Once the kids are on the mats, we start off with the first part of class. This is an entire full body warm-up. This warm-up section is completely systematized. We go through 4 different types of warm-ups, each of which hits the 4 main areas of the body. Now, in addition to just warming up the muscles and getting them ready to work, what's happening and what makes this so cohesive to the rest of the class is that we're increasing blood flow to the brain. By doing this, the brain is getting access to more oxygen, greater levels of nutrients, and because of the way that we do our warm-ups, we're increasing the brain's neurological firing, which means those nutrients are being taken up. Our physical warm-ups are actually prepping our minds to learn. Once the brains are all prepped with lots of that brain fuel, we go to part 2 of the class. This is our mat chat. Our mat chats work as an intellectual connection to all of the lessons we're about to teach that day. In that mat chat, we will define the skill that we'll be working on, let them know how it's important to them as a martial artist, why it's important to them for their general well-being, and we'll talk about some of the ways that we can express that skill and how we'll develop it in the drills to follow. And in fact, what makes this so cohesive to the entire class planner is the fact that by providing an intellectual foundation, everything that we discuss when we get moving will be able to be referenced back to that initial age-appropriate description. This helps stimulate a true desire to learn and an excitement to see what comes next. The third part of our class is where we work on some drills. Now, these are not just random activities or games, though they are game-based learning opportunities. These drills are picked specifically because they focus exactly on what we told the kids they would be learning. They help the kids explore the information that we just spoke about and have very simple, age-appropriate takeaways that we'll be focusing on. Now, when you couple this with all of the brain fuel that we prepped during our warm-ups, this starts to influence a child's working memory, their ability to take different pieces of information, things that are presented new, things that they already experienced, and put them together in order to solve the problems that we present during the drills. Because they can integrate the intellectual and the physical lessons, they're going to learn at a much faster rate than if we just tried to teach them either the intellectual lesson or the physical one. What makes this cohesive to the next part of class is that now kids have a baseline understanding of what it is that we're trying to convey. So as we move to part 4 of the class, which is our curriculum development, the kids now can look at things with a sense of perspective. They have some experience, and they can then use imagination to fill in some of the gaps that they haven't yet learned about. So as we now go through their age-specific, developmentally appropriate curriculum, it's very easy for them to filter the new knowledge into an existing framework that they've already established in their brains. This means they are learning very quickly. In fact, some topics that a typical school would focus on every single class for half an hour at a time, we'll do for 10 minutes over a 4-week period, and the kids still learn better. Now, once the kids have all of this important information, it's vital that they have time to filter that information in a way that is easily storable. This brings us to the next part of class, which is our cool down. During the cool down, we also have a systematized practice of stretches and visualizations. Because the physical movements are repeated and systematized, the kids know what they're experiencing physically, so their brains can now focus on storing in long-term memory all of the information they've covered. When you couple this with some of the guided visualizations, as they inhale and stretch down to touch their toes, they'll picture how they executed each step of the form, how they felt when they accomplished that goal. By reinforcing this using guided imagery and an emotional component, it creates a stronger, longer lasting memory. The final part of every class is the kids' favorite. It's where we play a game. Now, this is something that the kids just think is a bunch of fun, but it's a cohesive part of class because while they're playing the game, kids, through their free play, are now beginning to express the lessons they've learned in class. It's one thing to be intellectually connected to the material or even to be guided through it by an instructor. But when they have a chance during a game, something that is far less rule determined, to experiment with what agility means. What does it mean to have courage? How does teamwork function between two different teams as they play against one another? As they can now explore this in the game, it's a great way to reinforce all of those lessons. At the same time, it allows the instructors to see where the children's strengths and challenges are so that future lessons can be adjusted. This is also a great time for just the social bonding between teammates, and the instructors love to get in on the action as well because when the kids can get us out or win against us, they see that we're just human. And when the instructor can be human and the child is human, they can recognize that they can be just as good, if not better than, the instructors. The other benefit of ending on a high note is that the kids' bodies are pumping full of feel-good neurotransmitters. They have dopamine flowing through their bodies because they anticipate the next motion in their game. They have endorphins pumping through their bodies because they've been moving around. They're happy and sweaty. They have oxytocin pumping through their bodies because they're interacting closely with their friends and peers. And they have serotonin flowing through their body because of the interactions they're having. They just feel good about themselves. They are laughing and smiling and mingling with people that just make them happy. When we end the class on this really high note, it does two things. First, it attaches a positive emotion to the entire experience of class, meaning that they will ruminate on that a little bit more, again, reinforcing the lessons they've learned. It will also encourage them to play with that at home and to want to come back next time. Education is not something that happens once. It's ongoing through our entire lives. When you put all of this together, a cohesively designed class from the moment a child walks in to the moment they leave, with the goal of helping them be their best versions while having fun and creating positive relationships, class becomes something that the kids love coming to. And when a child is having fun, the child is more likely to be learning.